Hello, thanks for watching. We are talking about Italian perfume house Santa Maria Novella today. Of course, I am wearing my Italian food shirt for this occasion. You can see I've got little cannolis there on my shirt, and then I've got a plate of lasagna. So that is what we do when we talk about a perfume brand from a specific part of the world. We try to show up in every way that we can. My name's Hannah. This video was a reader or a viewer request, so thank you so much for requesting that I talk about my favorite perfumes from this brand. If you go back and you've seen my video on Muschio Oro, that was a review that I did a while ago. I went into some of the history of the brand. However, I will recap it a little bit here because things have changed, and I think that kind of impacts the scents that have come out and also the way that people talk about the brand and what the expectations from the brand are moving forward. So Santa Maria Novella was founded in 1221, and it is founded by Dominican friars who were making medicines, remedies, herbal remedies, using materials from their gardens. So they were diagnosing people and creating medicines for people, and people would come to them for salves or to ingest medicine. Back in those times, they're based in Florence, and the brand is still based in Florence today. One of the things that I found that was really interesting is that you could buy room sprays, because people thought that if you could make things smell better, then you were actually also preventing the spread of infection. They didn't realize that the smell was related to the germs, but they were just trying to purify the air, and they were doing that by making it smell good. So you would go to the pharmacy and you would bring your own vessel and you would fill it from the big jars and jugs that they had there and put it into your own vessel and then pay for it and take it home and use it in your home. And that went for perfumes, eau de colognes, and for room sprays, and for other medicines as well. They were sold in that kind of system, and you can still find old pictures of the Santa Maria Novella pharmacy that are circulating, all over the place. So that was kind of cool that that's how they would buy their medicines back then. If you could afford to do that, that's what you would do. They call themselves the oldest pharmacy in the world. Of course, we know there's no way that could be true because the world didn't start in 1221. I'm sure there were lots of pharmacies all over the world older than that, but they have said that they are one of the oldest pharmacies in the world, and maybe one of the oldest, but not the oldest. That's just something that can't be true. Moving on, today the brand is owned by a investment holding company. So they're owned by Ital Mobiliare Investment Holding, and that company holds 100% of Santa Maria Novella. My understanding is that first they acquired 20% of the brand, and then they increased their stake to 80% of the brand, and now they own 100% of the brand. They don't, when I last checked, they don't own any other perfume brands in their investment portfolio. They have coffee companies and other kind of food companies, but this is the only perfume brand that is currently in their portfolio. So I thought that was really interesting. The other thing I found out was that from 2020 to 2024, Gianluca Paris was the CEO of the brand, and he himself is a trained perfumer. He had worked for Hubjant before. And then in January 2024, Giovanna Paoloni became the CEO of the brand, and that person came from the world of luxury, everything, not just luxury perfume, but kind of luxury brands. So came over and was CEO of Santa Maria Novella, and they just announced that in September 2025, Ludivine Pont is going to be the CEO of the brand. She previously worked as Chief Marketing Officer of Balenciaga. So that's, some interesting information. I think that as someone that likes to wear the perfume, it's always nice to know that someone who knows perfume is heading a brand. And then when you find out that that's not going to be the case anymore, your, I guess, interest in the brand and their newest releases kind of diminishes. But let's not get too dramatic and ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about some of the actual perfumes. In the past, I've talked about Muschio Oro, and I've made a video about that, and that is kind of an old school chypre floral perfume, a little bit soapy, a little bit feminine, but really lovely and very easy to wear. I've also had Tabacco Toscano in my collection, and that is a perfume from 2008. That perfume is more of a green tobacco with a lot of vanilla in it, and the vanilla is kind of powdery and earthy and almost like cardboard. I bring up the year that it was launched because it reminds me of vanilla in another one of my favorite perfumes, and that is L'Artisan Parfumeurs Zing. It had the same kind of vanilla in it, although I wouldn't call either of them predominantly vanilla perfumes. The vanilla was really just in the dry down and really distinct and powdery and quite different from the very sweet vanillas that we have today. I think they probably use the same quality of vanilla in both those perfumes, and they were both launched in the late 90s and in the early 2000s, so it kind of made sense that, you know, if that was the trend of perfume at the time, or that's what niche brands were using, that Santa Maria Novella also used that kind of vanilla in their perfumes. And love both of those perfumes. I don't have Tabacco Toscano anymore, but I do still have Zing in my collection. Got rid of Tabacco Toscano because I already had Zing, and I saw myself wearing that vanilla perfume a little bit more than Tabacco Toscano. I also don't really love tobacco in my perfumes, and I'm not really a huge fan of them, so it wasn't a perfume that I needed to keep in my collection. Moving on, I'm going to talk about the Santa Maria Novella perfumes I still have in my collection, and we'll start with Melograno, which is the one that I've had the longest. This is an eau de cologne concentration, but this is a newer style of bottle from the brand, and I'll show you what the older style bottle looks like. It looks like this. So this bottle doesn't say the name of the perfume on it, and if you look at the back, that is where you're going to see the name of the perfume. That's how you can tell that this is an older kind of bottle, and the newer bottles look like this. I bring that up because some of the commentary online is that the packaging and the scent experience has gone down as the brand has been acquired and as there's been different CEOs. I would say, in my opinion, that the quality of the packaging has actually improved, because now you have the name of the perfume on the front of the bottle instead of on the back in gold lettering that can be worn off. Both of these are eau de colognes. However, this one you can open. So this is a screw top, and you can open it and then you can splash the perfume on. That's great. It's really old school. However, this one is a crimped style lid, and you can't unscrew this, which means that there's less of a chance of your perfume oxidizing and of the top notes changing. There's also less of a chance of you getting a fake bottle and someone just replacing the juice that's inside. So I don't actually think that there's anything wrong with the newer style of bottle. I actually think that it's an improvement over the old style of bottle. They're prettier, they're nicer to hold in your hand, and of course the most important thing is that they do have the name of the perfume listed right on the bottle. In terms of scent wearing experience, like I said before, this is an eau de cologne, which means that it wears pretty softly. It doesn't have intense lasting power. Melograno itself does have a good amount of initial presence when you first spray it, but it doesn't have a lot of sillage, so it's not a perfume that's going to announce your presence or overtake the room before you even enter it. It's just a very clean, fresh, soapy perfume, but it smells very, very expensive. It doesn't just smell like laundry detergent. So that is why I added it to my collection and why I've continued to wear it, because it doesn't smell basic. It smells elevated and very luxurious. So that is Melograno. I also have Lana, which is a Italian word that means wool. This was created in collaboration with a wool company, but it doesn't smell soft and cozy. It is an interesting fresh green rose with a bell pepper note and lots of vetiver. It's a great perfume to wear in the summer. It's a very unique and different rose, and I haven't smelled anything else that's like this. So that is Lana. Again, this is an older style bottle because it has Lana written down here in gold lettering, and the front is just that generic Santa Maria Novella stamp, I guess you would say. So that is Lana. The last perfume that I have still from the brand is Opoponax, and this is my current favorite from the brand of Santa Maria Novella. It is resinous, but has a fresh citrus opening. It's quite punchy at the beginning, but then kind of settles down into something more subdued and familiar and a little bit warm. It's not an ambery perfume, but it's also not a smoky church incense type of perfume. It's kind of like a medicinal herbal kind of resinous scent. That's how I would describe it. It really does smell like an old school medicine. There is something that's sweet and herbal in the dry down, very green, but really encapsulating all of that is this crystal shell of resin that you get. As you can see, I kind of have a hard time describing this one because it's so many things to me, but I would say that it smells like a herbal medicine from the olden days. Maybe you've had an older person in your life that gives you these old school thick liquids when you have a cough or a cold or you have a sore throat, and they're sweet, but they're bitter, but they're also herbal, almost like a Ricola cough candy. That's what Opoponax reminds me of. So that is my current favorite from the brand. Although the Santa Maria Novella perfumes that I have in my collection are older, I have sampled all the latest releases from the brand. In 2022, they came out with the I Giardini Medici collection, and they launched their first ever eau de parfum, which was Lice. Brands that come out with an iris perfume, I think, are correctly trying to capitalize on this fascination we have with the iris material, with the orris root material. We want to smell something that is powdery and warm and comforting and familiar. We want it to remind us of our moms, maybe, because a lot of times iris or orris perfumes smell like makeup powder, but then we also don't want them to smell like old lady, and we want them to be completely new and captivating and smell like nothing we've ever smelled before. Lice, for me, didn't really do it, and that's why I never ended up buying a bottle. I thought that it had a dry down of musks, and the opening does capitalize on the earthy quality of the iris material, which I really like. However, I really didn't like the dry down because it just smelled like laundry musk to me, and not in a beautiful, expensive way like Melograno does. Really, it just smelled like laundry, so I didn't end up liking that one. They also came out with Gelsomino, Magnolia, and Bizzaria in 2023. Tried all of those, never ended up buying any of them. I did like Magnolia. I thought that was an interesting flower. or an interesting floral, because you don't see a lot of Magnolia floral soliflores that come out in perfumery. Bizzaria was quite well done. It is a grapefruit citrusy kind of scent. Bizzaria refers to a type of citrus fruit, so I thought that was nice and refreshing. Just isn't something that I would reach for, so I never ended up getting that. In 2024, they came out with Acqua and Quercia. Didn't like either of those. And then in 2025, they came out with Ambra and Incenso. I actually got a sample of both of those when I bought my bottle of Opoponax earlier this year, and I thought that they smelled pretty, they smelled what you would expect amber and incense perfumes to smell like. The Ambra, I should say, did not tap into the Italian style of amber perfumes that I love, and that is by using ambergris in the dry down instead of or with the traditional ambery materials like resins, like labdanum, like vanilla. It just was a pretty typical amber perfume. It smelled very, very generic in the dry down, so I didn't love that. Incenso was a little bit more interesting. It was a little bit smoky, very woody. I liked it. I just didn't think that it was giving me something that transported me to a different place. It wasn't uplifting like Opoponax and Melograno are, and it wasn't refreshing and unusual in the way that Lana is. What I've realized is that my taste is usually in the minority, and just because I don't like it doesn't mean other people won't love it. So I'm sure they will be very well loved, both of those perfumes. I know Lice, people just like the idea of an iris perfume, and the packaging is beautiful. So if you want an iris that is vegetal, then that would be one to try. I think my taste just leans towards more of the classic kinds of perfumes. I want to smell something that I haven't smelled before, and all the ones that I have are interesting enough to offer me something unique. And that's why I bought them, and I still have them. I still love Tabacco Toscano, and I still love Muschio Oro. Both of them have a romantic kind of old world feel that I really enjoy. And I think I would really like to sample some of the older Santa Maria Novella perfumes, but for the future, I don't know if they're going to make anything that doesn't smell like the hundreds of things that we already have in perfumery. I'm not really holding my breath, especially considering the fact that they are now owned by an investment company, which usually means that they're going to be more focused on profits instead of just creating something that's artisanal, which is, I think, what fascinated me about the brand to begin with and why people loved the brand. The story of Dominican friars who were collecting ingredients from their gardens and then making things and probably praying while they were doing it and then helping people. That's a great story, and it probably inspired some great things and some great perfumes. I just don't see that happening in 2025 and beyond. So I don't know if I'm really holding my breath that my next favorite perfume is going to be from Santa Maria Novella. The one last thing I'll say before I sign off is that there are always lots of theories about brands reformulating perfumes and about discontinuing perfumes. What I've noticed about Santa Maria Novella, and this is to their credit, that is that none of their perfumes are showing up at discounters. So if you're holding your breath that you're going to get something for cheaper than it is retail, that doesn't really seem to be happening. Not that you can't find a discounted bottle here or there, but they are not selling a whole bunch of their bottles to a discounter, and I think that's because for the most part you can only buy their perfumes in their stores. I have been to other perfume stores that sell Santa Maria Novella, especially in Asia. There's other department stores and other perfume stores that carry the brand, but I have never ever seen them at discounters, and I don't think that you will see them at discounters. I think that the brand strategy, when they discontinue something or when they change the bottle, I think the brand strategy is just to sell through as much as they can, and when it's gone, it is gone. So for something like Opoponax, I got an older bottle, but I really just bought whatever they had available at the Milan store that I went to. Maybe if I went there today, they would be sold out of this bottle and they would only have the newer bottles. The older perfumes were sold in 100 ml bottles. This is a 100 ml bottles. The newer scents and the newer repackaged perfumes are available in 50 mls and 100 mls. So that's why this bottle is so small, and I could purchase a smaller bottle, and Opoponax I could only get in the larger 100 ml bottle. So that's something that's interesting about the brand. If you see a bottle like this, it's older, and then if you see a bottle like this and it's a spray bottle, not a splash bottle, it is for sure a newer bottle. Just so you know what you're buying before you buy it. So that's it for the Santa Maria Novella video. I will say that if you have the chance to visit a store in Italy or anywhere else, definitely do that. I had a lovely time every time that I went there. The sales people were so helpful, so accommodating. They give you samples with your order, which is always appreciated. There's lots of other things that you can try, like there's room sprays and there's ointments and there's mints, and potpourri is really popular from Santa Maria Novella. So lots of other things to get, of course candles, but also like body wash, face wash, like you name it, they have it, which is really cool. One thing I forgot to mention is that they are really well known for their Carta d'Armenia. Yep, which are their Armenian papers. These are papers that are coated in benzoin resin, and you burn them and they scent your home. They kind of smell like vanilla and smoke. It's like a vanilla smoke incensey kind of smell. It's really beautiful and lovely. I would definitely need more than one of these to scent my home, but I still love them, and I bought these from the store when I was there a couple years ago. So if you happen to go in and you're not even going to buy a perfume because maybe you don't have space in your luggage or you can't make up your mind about what to buy, I highly recommend these because they are so unique, and even if you don't end up burning one yourself, you could probably gift them to somebody that would appreciate them. That's it from me. Thank you for watching. Let me know what your favorites are from this brand, and I'll see you next time.